Hey folks, Steve Bird here with W.j. Lundy, which stands for Wilhelm Joquium. He doesn't let everybody know that, so now the cat's out of the bag. But anyway, we're going to talk to him tonight about a few things, including his books and his outlook on life and some other things. So, first off, what does W.j. stand for, if we're allowed to know?
Well, I go by John.
Okay.
W's Wilford John.
There you
I got
go.
old, so I'm a junior, and then I got a grandfather that's got the same name, and then I had a great grandfather that had it too. So
Well, that's
it's an old
awesome.
family name,
That's
country
awesome.
family name.
Yeah, that's an heirloom. Heirloom you walk around with.
Yeah, it ends with me though. I only have a daughter, and I'm not naming her Wilford.
Just like me, that's all I was able to put up with girls. But I love them. Something about having little girls just does something for you.
Yep, not bad.
So you're up in Michigan, and where exactly in Michigan are you?
Uh,
Ish.
like right there. I think it's like if you're like this, I'm like right there.
All right, cool.
Yeah, I'm like just south of Lansing, about 25, 30 minutes south of Lansing. About and then I'm 4 hours from Chicago, 2 hours from Detroit. So I'm in God's country in the middle of crap. So
Well, you're like me then, especially with the Amish neighbors. So, in your little neck of the woods, what's going on with the goings on that affect you?
yeah, it's kind of we're 100% locked down. I mean, we got stay-at-home orders. The only people that can work are the ones that have the little paper certified that you're essential, which seems like right now they're pretty easy to get. I've heard everybody from stump pullers to, I mean, there actually was a stump removal business that had one. I mean, like garbage truck drivers, most factories, General Motors all shut down, but you have to be an essential employee. The restaurants are open for takeout. My local brewery's filling growlers.
Well, you're covered
But
then.
if you go, what's that?
You're covered then.
Oh yeah, I'm all set.
You got grocery stores and a brewery. You're good.
Yep, you can go in the grocery store. You can go to like the post office, gas station, pharmacy. But other than that, you're supposed to stay home. Schools have been closed since I think they announced on the 12th, so the first Monday after that. But like Eaton County, where I'm at, I think we've had 15 confirmed. I don't know how many of those are recovered because they don't talk about the recovered because that's not scary.
You're not allowed to hear the good news.
Yeah, that's not scary. So now Detroit, you go 2 hours west, and I guess that's like their ground zero out there. But even for a city of millions of people, when I look at the numbers, I mean 1,000 people are sick. I don't know, now it might be 10,000. I don't even know what it is. I haven't been paying attention, but still, when you do the math and divide by millions, I mean it's bad. It's killing people, and I don't want to see anybody's grandma die. Or actually, we had one of our state representatives out of Detroit, 44 years old. He succumbed to it the other day.
Really?
I guess he was sick for a while, and his mom kept telling him to go into the doctor, and he said, "No, I'm going to tough it out." And she found him dang near unresponsive in the morning, and he was. I think they said they took him in by ambulance at 6, and he was gone by 11. So.
Man. Yeah,
it's serious.
That's the thing, we hear that most people, there's mild symptoms if they show anything at all, like a cold, and then other people just, bam, wipes them out, So that's kind of spooky. That kind of goes into that what are they not telling us category.
Right.
There's a reason they're reacting the way they are.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, because if it's one out of 100, that's still pretty high, really.
Yeah. Well, any's too many, but there's a lot of stuff out there that's going to get us. More. As many people every year die in car wrecks than did the entire Vietnam War, and we still hop in cars without thinking about it.
All right.
So,
yep.
So let's just hope this blows by.
Yeah, you can't be frozen by fear. You gotta kind of drive on, and that's why I was talking to one of my sailors that no names or anything like that, but people going out to the Comfort, and I was talking to somebody, and they're like, "Oh my God, terrified." I was like, "Man, you're not going to Iraq or Afghanistan. you're like a young sailor in the best shape of your life, going out to work on a hospital ship full of nurses, and it's the Comfort, and they're they're not taking corona patients. So
Yeah, they're just there to see everyone else, right?
yeah, they're like doing I guess they have a certain couple operating rooms on there and 1,000-bed hospital. But yeah, and they only let 50 people on at a time, from what I heard. So it's mostly like OTC type stuff or whatever they want to call it, over the counter.
It's
Yeah,
the
but
floating free clinic.
yeah, it's good stuff. I mean, because like on a personal, like my father-in-law, he's got kidney stones right now, and I don't want him going up to the main, hospital where it's like ground zero. So you have that opportunity where you could say, hey, come, we'll take him down to the comfort where we don't. I mean, we don't have that here, but
Right.
it's for stuff like that. It's supposed to take some of that pressure off. Yeah, because those New York hospitals seem like they're not doing too good.
No. Yeah,
I,
you can't live on top of each other in a situation
right,
like that. New York's kind of, I'm not trashing New York, but it's not a clean place on a good day.
right,
And
yeah,
everybody's on top of each other. You can't get away from anybody. Everybody's got roommates. Everybody's stacked on top of each other just because of the cost of living and the congestion. So it's kind of
hmm
it's kind of built for that.
it is. And I
Right.
don't. I mean, even seeing you see some of the interviews with these the nurses and stuff, and I mean, in the U.S., we're first world. People are kind of spoiled. So if you're not like probably an ER nurse or a trauma nurse or whatever, you're not used to doing this kind of stuff. If you haven't, I mean, when we deploy, we work like 6/12s, and I know some nurses that they work like 3 days a week, and now they're working 6 days a week. So
Yeah,
it's a,
my wife was an ER nurse at a children's hospital before we moved out here in the middle of nowhere and became weird hermit homeschool types. But yeah, she's keeping a close eye on this. She's my medical advisor during the whole thing.
yeah, that's good to have.
But yeah. But so you've got some new books that are out. Tell us about those.
So yeah, so my Donovan's War book it's my only one that's not. Well, it wasn't post-apocalyptic, so it's more of a military thriller. It's been out a couple of years. Basically, the way Donovan's War was Tommy Donovan's your old disgruntled, knocked out of the service. He was kind of one of your movers and shooters, but he was wounded on duty, so he's been retired. But he's an orphan, and his only sister got kidnapped in Syria working, for the missionaries. So that the whole book of Donovan's War was him basically trying to get her back from Syria. That came out a couple of years ago. So now book 2 is the pickup from that, and that's a Delphi initiative, and it's kind of like I wanted to throw him into the action, but I didn't want to do like your regular military thrillers. Every year it's like they're getting a terrorist here, they're getting a terrorist here. Each one of the books. So this one, the Delphi Initiative, I have a character. It's basically like Shady Underground, but what it is some IT guys and some government people. I won't say if they're Democrat or Republican, but figure it out. They come up with a software application that basically harvests. I'm in information warfare in the Navy, so that's my warfare designator. But so it harvests information. It harvests like bank account records, your cell phone stuff, because Siri, we all know Siri's not actually listening, right? So it harvests all these things, and then it does predictive software. So say like you tell your buddy, man, we should rob that bank, and so Siri picked it up and listened to it, and then it starts seeing your face when you go into a bank. It picks it up when you go on the cameras because it's registering you for your facial software, and then it sees you bought a gun or you bought a shotgun somewhere, and then it starts seeing you associating with these people. So then it does this predictive thing where now your percentage of being going to commit that crime goes up high enough to where it actually goes out to the police, and then the police can come and arrest you for something you didn't do, but you were planning to do based on what Delphi said. So it's like a software tool that these guys want to put into place. But the problem is the rest of the government says it's illegal and unconstitutional.
When does that matter?
Yeah, so I'm getting into it, not without too many spoilers, but So to get this thing into place, I mean, they work through all the channels, but they come up with the idea that you can't just throw this stuff out here because Americans aren't going to buy it. They aren't going to buy it unless, which kind of ties into what's going on right now. Americans aren't going to give up their freedoms unless you make them afraid of something else more than that, right? So
the liberty for security thing.
Yeah, so what they do is they your false flag type stuff. So they said the only way to get this program is to make people more afraid of the crime and terrorism than they'd be of the program. So kind of like your Patriot Act and stuff. And where Tommy Donovan comes into it, our hero spec ops guy, is they also figure out we can't take away people's civil liberties with all these guys out there because they're not going to stand for it. So
right.
It's a pretty good. I mean, that's where Delphi Initiative starts out. That's pretty much the opening, what it is, and then on top of that, I've got the hunt that is right. I'm launching both at the same time. It's a little bit different strategy, I guess, but the hunt is 13 years ahead of Delphi Initiative, so it's kind of like a step ahead into the future. So if you read the hunt, you can see that what's going on in DI doesn't have a happy ending. It gets pretty raw.
So you should read that one last.
It does. Well, the way we wrote them, I wrote it with AJ Powers, good guy out of Ohio. The way we wrote it is you can read them in either or, and when you're reading, if you're reading the hunt, you're going to pick up on things and go, oh man, that's what was going on over in Delphi.
Right.
And then if you're in Delphi, you're going to do the exact same thing. If you already read the hunt, you're like, oh, that makes sense because I remember that over here. So they're not like sequels where you have to, the stories aren't stacked. They're kind of just, they got these fingers connecting to them.
I've got a few books like that where you just start zipping them together, and then, you hope that, the people that read the other one will be like, ooh, and if people only read to one side, they won't get it, but you leave those little Easter eggs in there for the folks that are really into them.
Yeah, that's kind of how it is. Like you'll have a fine experience if you just read one, but if you read the other one, then you're going to really, that's how the story's going to really connect.
Right.
Start plugging in for you, so it's definitely worth it.
Awesome.
But yeah, those are those.
that sounds like. See, I'm all the time joking, saying that we need some vigilante superheroes, and because of all the stuff that's going on, and it sounds like Tommy Donovan would kind of fall into that category if with that whole statement of yours. Well, these guys won't stand for that.
Yep, and that's kind of what it is. It's like, I mean, the first two chapters of the book, it spills it out, but part of when they do the false flags, what they do, and it's not that far-fetched for me to believe, is they set up like veterans and stuff. Like they'll set one of the lines in there. There's a guy that wore a suicide vest and blew himself up on a bus, and he was like a retired Army Ranger. And then when the general's reading the report, he's like, "This doesn't make any sense. This guy was in a wheelchair. Like, how did he wear a suicide vest on a bus?"
Right.
But it was already all in the media, so like nobody is gonna believe his background.
No.
But they're basically pinning it on all these guys to try to start. They try to start like a civil war to get to get people to want the system that Delphi in place, so they can use that to start tagging people, really take out who they don't like. But.
Right. Yeah, stuff like that brings to mind that how a certain administration tried to take guns away from veterans by basically, if you were a veteran that was seen with PTSD, you were considered mentally defective and you'd have to give up your right to bear arms. That kind of seems to go along with that too. You keep tagging this certain population of people that you don't necessarily see eye to eye with, and eventually people are going to start buying into your lie, buying into that story.
Mm-hmm.
And,
just keep telling it.
So these books are basically nonfiction. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Yeah. That's the thing. Like I said, you can't like tag any. I don't tag anybody as Democrat or Republican in the whole book, even down to the president, because I actually started writing it when Obama was president, and I finished it. I mean, I've been working on this concept for quite a while. So, I mean, the parties have switched, but the story's the same. So, you pick where you want it to be. It doesn't matter. I tried to keep it pretty down to where it's just the elites are bad.
Yeah, don't call your readers bad.
Yeah, it's not even the it's not Democrats or Republicans, but it's like the people that want to take your freedoms away from you or your liberties away from you.
It's
And I don't think
the establishment, deep state, whatever you want to call it. Those guys.
yeah. And it's weird, like I mean, in Michigan, so in Michigan, and it's probably the same down in Tennessee. Our our liberals aren't the same as like a liberal in New York or Washington or California. I mean, a liberal out here in Michigan, they go out to California, they're pretty much right winger. So
Yeah.
I mean, we got some of them here that are swinging pretty hard on the left, but most of them, I mean, most of our guys are blue collar labor, and they're people that would be a Republican if they were anywhere else. So
Right. That's how this part of the country is. You got like the United Mine Workers Union that represents coal miners, who is a clear target of a certain party. Yet they vote for that party because the union constantly tells them who they're supposed to vote for, who's going to fight for their rights.
mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, the politician can be on camera saying, "If you burn coal, I will put you out of business," like literally.
Yeah,
And they still go for it because I mean, a lot of those guys have kind of moved on from that mentality. But like you said, your typical liberal voter here is they're just that. They vote that way because they always have. It's not the current policies that
right.
that turns them on. Yeah, and then you put those guys in California, like you said, and everybody be like, "Well, you're driving that gas hog pickup truck, big tires.
Yeah, you going
What's up
hunting?
with that flag in the back?"
Yeah, it's kind of silly. And even like I noticed, like a lot of older people here, yeah, they'll vote like a straight line Democrat, but when you talk to them, like,
Yeah,
you
they're
don't have a Democrat, really policy anymore. And even some of the conservatives are the same way. Their ideals have completely shifted.
I think one of our major flaws with humanity in general is that we never want to admit when we're wrong. So if you've been waving that flag for too long, you don't want to put the flag down because then you got to admit maybe I wasn't right all that time. So I think a lot of people are just stuck in their rut.
I mean, if you obviously people follow me, I'm pretty vocal. And I didn't always used to be that way. I was pretty quiet and I was mute about everything. And then like all through the Obama time, like I'm in private or whatever, I'll tell you what I meant, but I didn't get online and bash Obama because for one thing, I'm in the military and you're not supposed to do that. You don't bash your commander in chief. You can support him all you want, but you don't bash him.
Right.
But it just got to a point where it's like, man, I saw people just voicing the smallest amount of support for somebody or some opinions, and they would just openly attack them. So just one day I was like, man, hell with it. I'm gonna start voicing myself because I don't care. I mean, come after me, and people do, but for the most part, I don't really have a lot of problems. Like people are like, oh, you're gonna get blocked for that, but I mean, I get enough friend requests on Facebook or whatever. Half of them are my Nigerian girlfriends and stuff.
It's funny that you mentioned that. Every single time I get one of those sketchy friend requests and I see mutual friend, if it says one mutual friend, one or two, it's you most of the time. And if there's two mutual friends, Boyd Craven's the other one.
Yep.
So as soon as I see your guys' names in the mutual friend, like, I got to look at this one a little closer.
You got to back off. I no doubt when I log on in the morning, I get on there and I click yes to all of them. I don't even look at them. And then as soon as they send me that hi, how are you message, block. I don't even respond unless I'm feeling frisky. I just block them right away. And then I kind of weed them out because I have blocked people. I was blocking someone. I blocked someone the other day, and then my wife's like, "How can you block my aunt?" I'm like, what? I didn't know who that was.
I thought that was just a troll.
Yeah, it's like I got in there and I just started blocking people. But yeah, but for the most part, I mean, they're real people, and I got liberal friends on there too, and they'll shoot me messages in private. And I really won't. I don't block anybody unless they get real hardcore personal attack on people, or they just get really stupid.
Yeah, that's the same here. Blatant disrespect that's not called for. Attacks on people I could care less about. But there's people that follow me that I interact with all the time that couldn't be more different than me, that couldn't be more opposite. But as long as they're respectful and I'm respectful, it's okay to be different. It's okay to have different opinions. It's this
Yep.
this programmed division that's in us right now that tells us you're supposed to hate the people that have different opinions
Oh
than
yeah.
you. That's got to go. That's tearing us apart. And you can see that
Yep.
with this stupid virus stuff right now. If you don't believe exactly what someone else believes about COVID-19 or whatever you want to call it, they instantly hate you as if you're some kind of opposing political party, and you just have a different perspective. Is all. It's
Yeah.
programmed in us now.
Yeah. If you say that there's a like whatever one, if you say a Democrat is weaponizing this against Trump, they're like, oh, you think it's a hoax? No,
No, it's
I didn't say it was a hoax.
opportunism. It's political opportunism.
Yeah. I
And if
said
you don't
what's
think
her face ran out of gloves, so she said it's Trump's fault. I didn't say anything's a hoax. So, man, it's like everybody's got these pre-canned responses. It's just, yeah,
it's a
independent
script.
thought is a dying thing.
Exactly.
Too bad.
We definitely need more of that. And that's that which leads into your other books, the Zombie stuff. People hear me all the time saying what the world needs is a good zombie apocalypse. I'm constantly cracking jokes about that because sometimes it seems like that would be the only true fix. If people don't start getting eaten soon, how do we fix the path we're on? And like I've said a bunch of times before too, I think that's why things like even The Walking Dead are so popular. Even to people that aren't necessarily post-apocalyptic types, they see that society-ending event that basically cleans the slate. Everybody's on their own. It's like the Wild West. You stand up for what you want to stand up for. You take what you need to take. You earn what you need to earn, and deal with whatever comes as it goes. Instead of having this structured, rigid environment that you have to live in that's built by others.
Yep, everybody wants that reboot.
Yeah, that's the ultimate correction event. Plus, you get to shoot a lot, so
Yeah, that's not bad.
it's a correction event with headshots that aren't actually murdering people. So it's can't go
Yeah,
wrong.
yeah, that's how. I was listening to you and Ryan when you put that up there, and I was hearing how you got started on your last layover, and kind of cracked me up. You said you wrote yours on a phone,
Yeah.
but I was over in Afghanistan at the time, and that was because talking about The Walking Dead, and that's how that. I mean, I've told this story before, but the Walking Dead was pretty big, and we did. My unit was Task Group Trident, so we did facility security, and every once in a while we give tours to the State Department. We're in charge of the big prison where they put all the Al Qaeda guys and Taliban guys before they figured out what they wanted to do with them. But we get State Department guys in, and as you gave them the tour, like I remember we gave General Allen a tour. He's up front with the other officers and stuff. I was a first class at the time, so I'm in the back, and there's just some State Department weenie next to me. Got my binders, but he's asking me questions, and it's mostly like your regular contingency plans, like what if a prisoner escapes, what if this escapes, or what do you do if you lose power, or IDF mortar attack. And one day, one of the guys asked me, "Well, what if there's a zombie apocalypse?" And
You're
like,
like,
"What?"
oh yeah.
Because I was like, I had a booklet and I had everything in it, but I didn't have that. So I started like going back. I had a Tower 5. I was the LPO, and I had a little green Lifer notebook. So I just started writing stupid notes in it over and over again, and then I kind of flipped through all that. Then I flipped it over, and I was in Bosnia in '96, right after we went in there. So they were still, uncovering mass bodies, but we used to do convoys. I was with the EOD unit, so one of our jobs was the MSRs keeping the supply routes clear. And so we would go out to other places where someone might have found a bomb on the side of the road, or a lot of times farmers would find them in their field, and they just go, like if there's a bomb in their field, we wouldn't deal with it. We didn't care. It was in their field. So they'd hook it up to their mule team and drag it in the middle of the road. So then we had to deal with it.
What time in '96 were you there?
I got there in June, July, and then left just after, I want to say, April. So '96 to '97. I was with 703rd EOD with 1st Armored Division up at Camp Bedrock. EOD Mobile Unit 2 was with us. They were like we were an Army Navy unit.
Yeah.
So I was with them.
I was not too far from you at that time. I was just off the coast on the Theodore Roosevelt. We got there in late '96. So we still got, even though I just could see it from a distance, we still got that little, what was it, a blue and white Bosnia service medal thing, whatever that was. I don't even remember.
Yeah, NATO. There was places where, I mean, we could travel, and they said they had naval gunfire standing by for you. Not that we ever needed it, but they're like, it's there if you need it. So, yeah. Well, when I was over there, like, I had this thing, because we'd always go out on these convoys, and it was only a 3-vehicle convoy. And you're out basically in Indian country, just trusting them not to do anything. Right. That was back when we were on the Muslim side, But I started having these ideas like, what if we went out on one of these convoys, 3 vehicles, and, balloons went up, shit kicked off, and everything was lost. So I wrote a story, lost it when I got back, with everything, like how stuff goes. I couldn't find it. So when I was over in Afghanistan, I kind of combined them to where, what if you went out on a patrol, and as you're out there, the Zompot kicked off. So you're on your own, you get back, your fob's gone, and what do you do? So that's how Whiskey Tango Foxtrot actually starts out.
It's funny how many of us start that first book, how we all started out with our own scenario, with our own fears and our own observations, and then there's some people that research and kind of formulate a story, but a lot of us it just happens, and so that first book, it just happens for you in your environment, and then after that you have to be a little creative.
Yeah, then you gotta get smart, right? That's what I told my wife. Because that first one, I did like you were saying. I mean, I made a crappy cover myself. I barely proofread. I barely proofread it. Like I might have proofread it just for length, and then I figured out how to format it, and I threw that sucker online with no editing at 99 cents, and it blew up.
When was that?
2013.
Yeah, my first was 2014, and self-publishing was a different world back then. The quality standard that people expect today is through the roof, whereas back then, any little thing you put out, as long as the story's good, they would look over the cover, they would look over the editing. It was the story that counted, but now there's so many people in the game, the bar is set substantially higher.
You gotta be on your game.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I had people contact me saying, "Oh, I love your story, but like you were saying, your editing's crap." So
yeah, I was reading that in reviews.
Yep. Terry King contacted me, who's an editor, and she typed my stuff up, and from then on, it's just been money, I guess. But yeah.
Is that apple juice trying to get your vitamins to fight off the coronavirus?
This is actually it's bright white, so this has got white privilege and corona antibodies in it.
White Claw extra then.
Yep, White Claw. There's no laws when you're drinking White Claw. Yeah. But that's my wife was like, how come you used to put out like a book every 90 days? And I'm like, because now I got to
try now.
Because I was like, man, you were talking to Ryan, and I was like just looking at Ryan's catalog. I'm like, man, how's he kick out a book like every 3 weeks? I can't even. I mean, my last book took me a month to get it edited.
All I know is his Chinese ghostwriters are working overtime. That's no, I mess with him about that because he's a machine. He's just a focused machine. Is all there is to it. Mm-hmm. My big problem is life, and you've got kind of that too. You got the Navy, and you got your General Motors job, and family, and there's sometimes it's hard to add in that 4th or 5th career.
Yeah, and I don't know about you, but say we had the strike going on this year, so our workload went way down. Do you think I wrote a lot? No. If I can sit around, if you gave me a month off and gave me a laptop and story ideas and told me to write, I would come out with nothing. I mean, maybe a hangover because I just can't do it. It's got to be, the switch has to be on mentally.
Yeah.
And then I can get through it. Like the last half of DI, I got back in that zone. I was just cruising through it, the Delphi initiative. And then my other problem, which I don't know if you hit this too, but you go all the way through, you send it off to the editor, come back, you're all geeked up, you go through those reviews, get it formatted, and hit publish, and you're like, I don't want to write anymore. I'm done.
I haven't been that way in a while. I've generally got 2 books at a time backed up and backlog in my mind, cover to cover. Just got to put them down on paper. My only problem is I'm spread way too thin. This solar project I've been working on, and just the regular everyday farm stuff. And the kids, and then the regular job. It's very taxing, and I'll admit, biting off my own audiobook is a lot to chew. It's fun. I love doing the narrating part, but all the rest of it, the mechanics of getting it all together, that might be a little more work than I'm interested in. To be completely honest with you, just time wise. If I didn't have anything else going on, if I was just sitting in an apartment or a suburban house with really nothing outside that's going to occupy my day like a farm does, I think it'd be a totally different ball game. But right now, I barely have time to write as it is, so I need to stop biting things off and just chew what I got.
That's how I am. I feel like, we were talking about like how it was when we first got into it, and my books were, they were riding sky high. I was number 4 on the author list or whatever that means, and all my books would come out at number 1 and stay in the top ranks. And I think I took it for granted and didn't. Maybe there's lost opportunities there. I didn't, I didn't keep my shoulder into it.
Yeah, well, the competition's there now, so if you're you put out more than I do. I'm lucky to get, 2 books a year out now just for everything I got going on, and that is not a pace that is a competitive pace these days, and I keep telling myself, man, I got to get more, but you did how many last year?
2.
Yeah, so you're right there with me.
It's weird.
It's that multi-career thing, man. There's only so much you can do with it.
Well, then people are like, well, why don't you quit and write full time? And I'm like, well, I write about my experiences. If I write about my sitting here writing books, it's just gonna suck.
Yeah, like what? Yeah.
This guy writes all day and he drinks. But I get out, like when I get out, actually the more military stuff I do, even though I'm a salty chief now, and I work I'm actually with the History Command, so I get to go out to different commands and see people. Like I was out at Whidbey Island with the
P3s, growlers.
With the growlers.
I was at Whidbey for 13 years.
Yep, and I got all fired up when I was out there and come back. I was like, man, that's cool stuff. And then I get all these ideas I want to write about. So, being in the Navy gives me lots of motivation, even if I'm just bullshitting in the chief's mess about things other people are doing. I'm getting into it, hearing about it. So,
well, it gives you realism.
I don't want to be the guy that writes based off what I played on Call of Duty or saw on TV.
Right, and for instance, can you enjoy watching a Top Gun movie? Let's take the first Top Gun, for example. They walk out onto the hangar bay to get on an elevator, and they exit the ready room into the hangar bay, get on an elevator, ride it up to the flight deck to get to the plane. But all of us with a clue know the ready room is on the O3 level, which is above the hangar deck at the flight deck. So you basically just walk out and boom, there you are. There's no need to go down 3 sets of stairs and go over, get on an elevator to ride it back up just to get to where you were.
Yeah, you gotta get the whole theme song in though.
Right, they need time to play that song. But yeah, but anyway, you're writing about stuff you see and you do, and that makes it legit to all the other people that have been there and done that. They're not going to be throwing the BS flag constantly because you Googled something and wrote about what Google's answer was. That adds, and that's probably contributed a lot to your success, is you do write about the things you're personally associated with.
Yeah, things you gotta. I'm obviously I haven't done half the things that the characters do because I don't write about myself. But yeah, like going to Afghanistan, that's why I like to put it in. I set it in Afghanistan because nobody gets to go there, and when I read, I want to go places I haven't been. I don't want to read about.
While at the same time making sure the folks that have been there appreciate the authenticity. Right. Right. Yeah, that's important to me because I know I'm that guy. I can't watch an airline movie. I can't watch a military. I can't watch anything that I have been associated with because it's the whole time you're like, my wife hates it because the whole time I'm like, bull, that's crap. It's not like that. So you don't want your books to be that way. So, writing what you know is good. That's how it should be. Yeah, I think you can definitely tell the Wikipedia novels.
Yeah.
you know, I'm gonna
Yeah.
write about an EMP. I don't know what EMP stands for. Let me Google that. Oh, and it just start.
That, that burns me too, because sometimes I like know too much, and I'm like, man, that's not good. That's not even feasible.
Yeah, oh
Because
yeah.
you got to throw it. Everybody wants that, though. Everybody thinks that's cool. So, but I was like, well, that's been tested and debunked, right?
You
But
know,
I'll just throw it in anyway.
you know who I
Like,
envy? It's the fantasy folks. Because you could just
right.
make it up as you go along. Everything is right if you say it's right. But
Mhm.
how many shape shifting werebears are there? So how does it, So whatever you say their attributes are, that's what it is. That's the truth. Nobody can call the BS flag on it. So it's
Yeah.
I envy those folks. You just make everything up. Can't be wrong
Oh,
about anything. If you're right about the real
yeah.
world, it's dangerous. You gotta do your homework and know your stuff.
Yeah, and that's kind of where we write. We write at Near World, so it's like based on actuals. Where even with Delphi Initiative, I put that kind of in the future because there's things in there like there's the nuclear strike. A little bit of a spoiler, but you use a nuke in the continental U.S. That's pretty much game over. I don't care where it hits. So these books where it only hit in Arizona, yeah, tough. It's going to be a bad.
Didn't you
It's going
watch
to be a bad
Jericho?
year.
They hit everywhere and they were fine.
Yeah, yeah. In Jericho, they just like it was only down the road, so
Oh,
man, that was the
dude,
next county over. But
that
yeah,
that show, as much as I liked it, it didn't stop with the Hollywoodisms. I mean, from the very beginning. Did you ever watch Jericho?
oh yeah, I loved it. I was
The
pissed when they.
school bus
Oh,
scene where they were trying to act like the school bus was going to run out of gas, so they kept showing the footage of the dash with the fuel gauge being on empty.
yeah.
I'm like, all those gauges show that the bus isn't even on. The engine's not running. There's no oil pressure. There's no voltage. That stuff like that would drive me nuts. And then they needed gas, so they went and siphoned some out of a big, huge diesel tank connected to a diesel generator to put in a gasoline car. It's like, God, did you guys not even try? I mean, I appreciated the theme of the show, but come on now.
That was a cool show. But yeah, all
Yeah.
the stuff on there was just silly. And then the National Guard were like the big villains. They're always the bad guys at every show. And I was like, man, do you know any like actual National Guard guys? Most of them aren't capable. They don't have the IQ to be a villain. They get ASVAB waivers. Come on, they're not going to take over the world. Calm down, you
And
guys.
before all the bad comments start popping up on this video, he was Army.
Yeah, I was.
he's got the right to say it. He was Army.
Yeah,
So,
I actually love National Guard dudes. I have a in there. I was Army and I have a National Guard uh, combat patch, an MP company out of or battalion out of Florida National Guard. So I love my National Guard brothers. I just
there
like
you go. You got.
you know you get I get Marine shit too, and I'll get sailors. Man, talk about sailors. Sailors take the most beatings.
I know. Yeah. Every time a Marine tries to give me crap, about that ship with a bunch of guys, I'm like, dude, we had women on the boat. You're literally with nothing but guys in your tent, so don't give me any
Oh, I
crap.
know. First thing they always do is like, sailors are gay, and I'm like, dude, I deploy with Marines, and you guys do some really weird stuff.
Right. Right.
I've never got naked and branded each other, so you guys
Right.
do some weird. I've walked in on some weird Marine stuff. So, yeah, just
That's the.
don't. You can't go to Marine camp and not do some weird stuff.
Have you been on a ship since you made chief?
No, I've had the opportunities, but I was supposed to have gone on a few um, short cruises back, but no. So far, I got since I've been back from Afghanistan, I kind of got relegated into intelligence roles for support, and then they had an open billet with this history command where they go out and interview people coming back from deployment. You do interviews and write little reports and stuff like that. So I've been tied up in that. But yeah, I actually was on the TR in back in Norfolk in I want to say 2014, maybe 2014. and I got lost on it. So
Yeah, your first 2 weeks, you miss like one or two of your meals a day because you can't find your way back to
yeah,
the galley.
they kept telling me to go in there and go up to. Oh, I got put with the undersea warfare unit, and they worked in the CIC, and they were
The
like, "Hey,
blue
Chief, let's
tile
go up to
area.
the CIC." And first time I was like, "Okay," and then they just pointed me, and I'm like walking around going, "I don't know where the hell I'm at." I had to find somebody. He walked me up there, and then I was like, "I gotta go to the head." They walked me, and they're like, "Yeah, Chief, you don't gotta come back anymore if you don't want to."
My first time on the boat, when I just started getting it down, okay, I can find my way to work. I can find my way to because aircraft carrier, that's a big place to get lost, right? And everything
Yeah.
looks the same in every direction. So I finally got it down. I can get to work. I can get to the gym. I can get to my berthing. I can get to the galley. I'm golden. And then the first field day happens, and all the passageways you usually take are all taped off. So you got to find alternate routes. It's like, oh, there's another missed meal. Can't find the galley again.
Yeah, I'm a sand sailor through and through, so I've never been ship's company or anything like that. So.
I was there. I was air wing. So when the ship got back, we got to leave. Thank goodness. I remember
Nice.
packing off the Enterprise, I believe it was, and we were carrying those knuckle busters, the big stupid big metal containers with the tiny little handles. You can only get like 3 fingers in. We were carrying some of those down the ladders, and there was these guys, wrapped up around the stairwells in the chow line for like lunch or something. They're like, "Man, it must suck to have to carry all your stuff around everywhere you go." And I just looked at him. I was like, "It must suck to have to stay here and never get to leave." He just went till he was like, "Oh."
Yeah, I was talking to some guys. Well, the last time I was down in DC, they had just come back from the Reagan out in Japan, and they were all air wingers, so it was kind of cool to listen to their take, how they would get back, and get all their planes and everything off, jets off and whatnot. And then the ship's company was stuck. So
Right, yeah. I mean, we had a lot of work to do to get out there and to get back, but we got to get back. Our lives went back to normal when we got back to land. So it
yeah.
was. I liked air wing. It was a good time.
That's like a cultural thing when I went from the Army to the Navy too, because they would talk about deployments. Guy would be like, "I've been on 9 deployments." I was like, "Holy shit, how long you been in?" And then I find out their deployments, is like a cruise or whatever.
What?
Where in the Army, deployments are like 13 months somewhere.
The Navy's defense though. In the Navy's defense though, the Navy always deploys. They don't wait for some. Now, granted, we've had wars for so long now, people don't remember what it was like to not deploy, but in the normal peacetime environment, the Navy goes regardless, and everybody else only goes when something bad happens. So, but and in a workup cycle, in a 12-month workup cycle, if you go on every little debt, you get the 6-month cruise and all the workup debts, you could be gone 10 months out of the 12.
Yep.
But hey, the Air Force guys, they've got it hard. I mean, they got to go for like 2 weeks, a hotel. And sometimes those hotels are just 4-star. They're not even 5-star.
Oh, yeah. They don't even have full table.
Get the economy rental car. I mean, people shouldn't have to put up with that. I feel for those guys.
I think in Afghanistan they were doing. I think the group that was out with us was doing 90 days, so they were rotating in. And in Bosnia, even we had 3 of those groups come through in the time we were there. Good guys, but I mean, if you can make it work, why not?
Oh yeah, no.
Maybe they're either going, getting ready to go, or coming back. And Army, we just get tagged, build up, go out there, be dirty for a year, and then come back, clean your gear, and then wait to get picked again. But my active duty time in the Army was during pretty calm water, so it wasn't too bad. Not like it is now.
Yeah.
Well, actually, now I think it's even slowed down. So
I know right before I retired, being a reservist simply meant you stopped getting paid when you got back from deployment. But there was, you were deploying just as much as the active duty guys. The difference was they kept getting paid and you stopped getting paid.
Oh yeah, yep. Go back to the ranch.
So you want to hit some of these questions folks have left for you?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's see how much views I can get.
Well, Brandon Fowler, we've kind of already answered his first question. He said, "Are you currently drunk, drinking, or walking to the fridge to get an alcoholic beverage?"
I did the walking too before. I'm drinking now, but I'm not drunk. Takes a
Yeah, it's
Not yet.
a little early for that still. Yeah.
Yeah, it's early in the day.
And
My wife will have to get drunk this time, so.
And we covered Lisa's question. She asked, "What does your family call you, W.j. or your first name?" So I guess they call you your middle name.
Yeah, I go by John. Yep, most people call me John or something even worse.
Okay, Deborah Buckley. Did you have the evolution of the primals set in place from the beginning, or did they just continue to morph in your mind over time?
No, I mean, from the first book, uh, no, not in the first book, and then the second book, they kind of they evolve with the story. So uh, that the way I wrote with when I was writing Whiskey Tango Foxtrot, which I think I was probably a better writer, even though now I'm technically a better writer. I was probably a better storyteller then because it was more flow, but I kind of just jumped in the, you get your brain locked in there,
Oh yeah.
and then the characters tell you the story. So I
You're
didn't like,
watching the movie and just writing down what you see.
yeah, just following the characters was like the narrator. So the primal started evolving. I didn't know they were going to do it. It just happened.
Hey, you didn't ask him why. You just observed, right?
Yep, I just
Observe and
observed.
report.
I think when it first happened, though, like I have them go. I mean, to jump up a little bit farther, people aren't really into the series. Is I've always been like the one thing with zombies living in Michigan is like, well, when it gets cold, they're going to freeze, right? Because the human body just can't be outside and not freeze solid after a while. And that's kind of where the line started to split between the ones that had a little bit of a functional brain that know better than to stay out in the cold and be whatever, and then the ones that would just freeze up and be creepers that would turn more zombies. So if you haven't read the series, I've got your legit stumbling zombies that I call creepers. Then your primals are more they're like fast running sprinter monsters, but they also think. And then I've got hunter primals that are kind of like leaders, so they can actually plan. Like if you watched I Am Legend, how you have the ones that are kind of like the leaders.
Yeah.
I've got that. So it's pretty scary. Like sometimes I write this stuff and I'm like, man, where the hell did I come up with that? Something's wrong with me. But it's I really didn't plan out a lot of that. It was just kind of self-evolving. Every once in a while I get an aha moment and you write it down in the notebook. But good question.
How do you come up with ideas for your books?
Oh, that's booze.
Kind of code. Booze and involuntary military deployments.
Yeah, lots of deployments. I used to say that like I have a buddy that I used to talk to all the time. He hasn't been doing too well for a while, but I started telling him to write, and I was like, if you told people like some of the stories that are in your head from what you did in the military or what you saw or even what somebody else saw and you related it, they would shut up and not want to listen to you anymore.
Right.
You write about like zombie violence and all this kind of stuff and put it in a book and make it fiction. They'll listen to you. So I guess it's a way for you to put stuff down, express it. So not that my stories are true stories, but I don't know. But
well, you can still have the same struggle of humanity built into a fictitious world.
Right.
You can tell the story without telling the story, essentially.
Yeah, exactly. You can kind of get it out there and you can like have an outlet for some of those dark thoughts, which I'm not into. One thing, if you read my books, and one thing I kind of detest with writing is guys that just write shock, like their whole, like I pick it up and it's nothing but rape and chopping people up and stuff like that. I'm like, man, what is this? This is like the dog fighting of writing, like there's no talent here. It's just how gory can I make this page? I've never been into that. It grosses me out. I've had people ask me out to promote their books and I'm like, oh yeah, man, let me check it out. And I read it. Nope. Go away. There's something deeply disturbed about a guy that, about that kind of writing. It's just odd to me. There's a market for it, but it's gross.
I think there's definitely times in books for those dark, horrific scenes and those dark moments because
Yeah.
if you're writing about a dark subject, or, an environment and you need to shock people to put them into a mindset, to put them into that world, then
Right.
that's the time for it. It's called for. But yeah, if it's just gratuitous from the beginning to the end, cram every word you can get in there, cram every violent act you can get in there, cram every, that's a different world, different
Yeah, it's
story.
kind of like the movie Seven, with Brad Pitt or whatever. So that's pretty gory, grotesque, but there's a story.
Right.
But then you take Saw, and like, what the hell is Saw? It's like people getting chopped up one scene after another.
And that is the story, for something
Yeah,
like that. No,
it's like the
seven was
de-evolution
good.
of storytelling there. But I mean, you're right. There, you can put it in, and you can have like these dark scenes because sometimes you have to have them, especially if it's like a vengeance type book or something, or the Dirty Harry stuff. You got to have it in there. But yeah, some of these guys, it's just all it is, and it's like, how far can I go? I'm like, man, I don't know. Not my thing. More power to you if you're into that. Good job. Feel sorry for your cats.
I've got some. I've got some pretty dark scenes in some of mine. Them is almost a horror,
Mhm.
and I've had people afterwards. God, man, what's wrong with you? But I mean, the whole book wasn't like that. There's just that one environment. I wanted you to be inside the head of that young girl, and the only way to do that was to show you what she was seeing.
Yeah.
There was a point to it. You needed to emotionally be in a dark place. It wasn't gratuitous, but it was pretty sick.
Yeah, you're not throwing it out there just for shock. You're actually building up a character or building you got to get people on a certain plateau to understand. Because even with like Donovan's War, um, the stuff he does, I've had people write. I mean, I had a review where like, all he does is kill people for no reason. No, he kills people because they're freaking terrorists that were like sex trafficking women. so, I try to build up to that. So in your head, you hate the villain, and you see how evil they are, and you got to have that justification there because you can't just have a guy walking. In other words, it is just cold blooded or whatever. So
Right.
I don't know. That's why I think when my writing slows down, then I start overthinking stuff. So next,
Sherry Elliott, why didn't you promote your new book, The Hunt, prior to it being released?
yeah, I started promoting The Hunt back in October. I was kind of like, I don't know if she was just being tongue in cheek with that or not, but I did promote it. Like most of us, though, we're pretty bad at self promotion, I think. But The Hunt, first the Creed went out. The Creed, which was like a short story, which tells the motivations of what The Hunt is. So the Creed's the short story that dropped in October. Right when that went out, the pre-order came out for The Hunt. So if you read the Creed, which is really what we kept hitting was the Creed, hit the Creed, and the link in the back to the Creed leads to The Hunt.
Okay, so Creed was the marketing plan then for The Hunt.
Yeah,
Hey,
we kept pushing the Creed, and so the plan was to get everybody to read the Creed. That gets you into the pre-orders for The Hunt. Now, Delphi Initiative is, if she said, "Why didn't you promote Delphi Initiative?" I would have been like, "I know, right?"
those suck.
Because Delphi, the plan was to get it out close to The Hunt, but not right on top of it. So I was pushing it, and then I got orders out. I thought I would get the Hunt or Delphi out with a pre-order and have it launch on March 31st. I thought I'd have it done around. I sent it off to my editor right around the end of February. I thought it would be with her two weeks, and then I would get on a pre-order going to March 31st. So these would both come out together, both with a pre-order, and I had a big plan. But yeah, the world kind of shit the bed here, threw everything off filter. So then I was like, I was coming back from Washington. I talked to her, and things went crazy out there where she's at. She's a teacher, and they got shut down. She got moved to online training, so her job got crazy, and I didn't want to put any more stress on anybody. So she worked and got it done. And then when I had it back, I was like, should I should I push it out to the middle of April, end of April, or just drop it right on top of the hunt? And talking to AJ, because this is our project together, we kind of thought, never really seen anybody do it before, so let's just throw them right on top of each other and see what happens. And it's Qualification time, so people got time to read. So I didn't want to set on them. I was like, you know what, it's done. Readers want it, so let me just get it right out there. But yeah, DI is probably the hunt. People should have known the hunt was coming, but maybe not because I suck at promotion. So, but Delphi Initiative definitely was a. I've hinted about it. I mean, if you look at my other page, I've been hitting about that for a while. I mean, I've sold freaking 150 of these patches already. They're all promoting that. So, yeah, it's Delphi Initiative is like probably the only time I've ever done a really cold launch like that. I mean, it was literally my ebook formatter had it done yesterday at like 7 o'clock, and I uploaded it. So it was real short fuse, but I hope it pays off. I just wanted to get it out there for everybody. I know everybody's locked down, everybody's depressed. I'm not going to be one of those goofballs that writes, my Corona book. I can't believe it. I saw a couple of guys. I don't know if more power to you again. I don't think that. I mean, to me, I don't think I want to capitalize on this.
No,
I don't know to write about it, man.
My last book is almost a little too close to this. It was a weaponized virus that was part of a global conspiracy. That wasn't that long ago. If a fellow had it to do over, I could just tweak a few things, and it would be basically modern events. But that was like a while back. I'm not copying anything.
Yeah, yours is a legit, like Whiskey Tango Foxtrot. That's how that is. It's guys, a terrorist group, the Sons of Bin Laden. That's what they do. Is they inject people at the airports all over the world on the same day. So
perfect way to spread it. I'm going to tell you, I'm just glad I'm not an airline guy anymore. I flew for the airlines for like 11 years, and I do not miss that right now.
I was coming back from when I was coming back from Seattle there right after that they had to break out in the nursing home. I mean, I was flying back, so you could tell I was kind of sitting there like, man, this sucks. Why did they send us out here? But on the plane, almost nobody had masks on except for like all around my row, everybody had them on. And then but I kept seeing the flight stewardesses. I was like, man, that sucks for them because they got a deal. They got to offer everybody a drink, whatever, all the way up and down. So they're making contact with everybody. It's like that's hard.
And she's probably doing 6 flights that day.
Yeah, that's what I was like, man. And they're hitting everybody. So if somebody's going to get contacted, it's pretty rough.
Yeah, and for poverty wages, what they make is no.
Yeah, they don't make
much. Deborah Buckley again. Escaping the Dead is the book that resurfaced my love for PA fiction. My life had taken a few turns, and I hadn't really enjoyed reading in quite a while. Once again, I'm enjoying my time spent with books and the adventures I get to take. Well, that's more of a huge compliment, not really a question. That's what you want to hear.
Yep, and that's always, I don't like, yeah, I really like that people can get some joy back into reading. So even when I hear like, I'll hear people write me like, I don't even read books, but I read yours. I'm like, wow, thanks. Or people say their kids, like there's a lady that she bought them for her kids, and they're definitely not kid friendly, but she said she's letting them read them because he reads them cover to cover. I'm like, man, that's pretty cool. But I write at a 7th grade level. My story is like probably. I mean, I read some of yours too, and yours is kind of the same way.
7th grade. Yeah, they are actually.
You're 7th grade chief level like me.
Right.
And, but the characters are the story. The whole like the zombie apocalypse is in the background. I could change that to something else, some other disaster, but it's still for me like because the way Whiskey Tango Foxtrot Escaping the Dead is it's a group of guys, basically a family in Afghanistan trying to get home. So it's all about that brotherhood, camaraderie, the small unit tactics, things like that. And I don't get into I could go through nomenclature and Sears catalog on weapons, but I really don't, because I think it's kind of like get why some people do it, because there's definitely a market for it, especially if you're not familiar with weapons and you're interested in that. But I don't. I think it's like a speed bump to me. Like if I was talking to somebody about the other day, and they're like, "Well, why don't you do it?" Like, well, when you're watching an action movie, you don't see the guy like kick out a door and then stop and go, "All right, this is what I got here. It's a 30-round magazine, whatever," and he breaks it all down. I was like, they don't do that. They just bust through the door and they go to work.
Yeah,
So I was like,
as long
in a
as the
book,
mechanics of what you're explaining is correct, I don't think you
yeah,
need to over-explain. But on the one hand, you don't want to talk too much to bore people to death. You don't want to start throwing out like part numbers and stuff. Which I've read some books like that where they're literally almost giving you the catalog number from the GSA catalog where that piece of equipment was acquired.
oh yeah,
And then others that are so vague you almost don't know what they're talking about. So you want to describe it
yeah.
enough and
Or they
accurately.
changes from one thing to the other, and then like we were talking about earlier, like magazine capacities are wrong, and then I'm focused on that. So I'm like, if you don't know, then don't get like into the weeds on it.
And he
No,
flipped
but
the
then there's
safety
other
off
guys,
on his
man, they'll
Glock.
describe the freaking brand of socks the dude's wearing.
It's a shopping list. It's a shopping list to
Yeah,
how to be cool like him.
yeah, like, all right, you open
That's
the backpack. He had two clip bars and a mag light with 3 batteries. And like, wow. I mean, I get it. There's prepper guys that really want to know because they're building their packs back based on that.
and
But
that's where that comes from right there. And have you ever heard the term Rawlsian?
mhm.
Rawlsian, like James Wesley Rawls, one of the original godfathers of
Yeah,
the prepper writing. He was a very detailed
yep.
person. So after that, if somebody was overly detailed, they were called Rawlsian. Basically, like they'd
Yeah,
learned to write from the school of Rawls, which isn't a bad thing.
but that, yeah,
Like
I think back when before they're real self-published. I'm trying to think of the name of the book. Um, shit, but there were guys that would actually write. They weren't writing a fiction novel. They're actually writing how-to guides
right.
to be like a prepper or an insurgent, basically. So that's why they did have detailed guides like
Did you
that.
ever read
And they
Patriot
talk right
Dawn?
down.
Did you read Patriot Dawn?
Yep. Oh yeah, yeah.
That
Yep.
one,
That's
that
like
was
that.
a how to insurgency book,
Yep.
and that
Yeah,
was
I remember seeing those on watch lists.
yeah, that one right there, that would get you on a watch list. It's and it
That was
was.
the one where they actually taught you how to make like explosives and everything, right?
I don't remember that, but there was a lot of how to defeat thermal imaging, how to defeat basically all the technologies that the government currently
Yep. Yeah.
has.
Yep. I'm trying to think of what the other one was, but there was one where he was actually showing you how to build like bombs and everything, and I was like, I can't believe this is out here. It was a little. I remember you used to buy it, but it was just a thick, like, well, not thick. It was a thin little book, yellow, and then it was something's guide to. But you'd read it, and it was read like fiction. But I'm like, man, this is like a Viet Cong instruction manual. But yeah,
The
that's
tr-
where.
the truth hidden within.
Yep.
But yeah, a lot of stuff's evolved since then, and that's good. It's good that the market's growing, that the PA market's growing. It's expanded into several different directions, and you've definitely got your finger tapped into a lot of that, and that shows. So one last thought. For a person, since you've got a lot of stuff that's out, for a person that hasn't sampled your wares just as of yet, where would you advise that they start? All the way back in the beginning, or with something newer? Is there something newer that you're prouder of?
I mean, if the zombie thing, which to me it's zombies, but it's the background. It's really about the fall of society and how fast it could happen. It could be a plague, whatever, but that would be my Whiskey Tango Foxtrot series. That's Escaping the Dead. If you want something a little different, still PA is my Invasion trilogy, which that was probably the first set of books that could have went trade, but I was too impatient, didn't want to take the pay cut. So then you would start with The Darkness, which it's kind of like the Invasion of the Body Snatchers mixed with World War Z. It's got a pretty good twist at the end that I won't spoil. And then Torment, which is my soldier series, that ties into Whiskey Tango Foxtrot, but instead of starting in Afghanistan, starts back in the States. That's been pretty big seller for me right now, probably because I learned how to write in between the time I wrote that first one to this one.
You're like me, OJT. I especially consider my first book. That was my OJT book.
Yep.
And I've had people comment, I could see you're developing as you went. Thank God. But,
and then the new one, the Donovan's War in Delphi. If you want like more traditional military thriller that leads into a really big, it's going to be a huge post-apocalyptic dystopian by the time you get through it. That's really going to be the fall society, and kind of my vision, like, of how I think it could happen. There's a lot in there, so it's not like so tight that I have to get DoD clearance for it or anything to write it. But there's things in there that, just being a software engineer in my day job and going through the information warfare, warfare qualification, that I just kept putting things together, and I was seeing the way our privacies are being lost with these things, and how everything's plugged in. Really, you could get a full picture of somebody by plugging in all that with your mortgage, your car, and they're talking about being able to track people on their GPS, where they go, what they do, and don't even think that your text messages aren't stored on some database somewhere. So,
oh yeah. Only Hillary Clinton's text messages and emails disappear. All the rest of us are cataloged for eternity.
Yeah, the rest of us aren't allowed. But,
right.
Yeah, man. So that's pretty. I mean, you want to get into my stuff? I'm glad to talk to you. I'm actually always available too. I'm probably one of the more. I mean, there's some guys that are pretty vocal on the interwebs, but I am pretty open. I'm a pretty open book. Like I said, I think people should get out there and express their opinions, and good or bad, right or wrong, whatever. But hit me up online whenever you want.
Yeah, I think keep being honest, keep speaking your mind. I think a lot of people, they really want to know who's behind the stuff they're reading. These days there's a lot of people that write to an audience that they may not necessarily have anything in common with, but if readers can relate to the person that's telling the story, they can hook into the story a little more. They can respect your experiences and the things that have led you to tell that tale. But we've broke the hour mark. That's enough to scare a lot of people off of starting a video. So we should probably quit beating the horse and let it die. So Thanks a lot for coming on. Hope everybody enjoys it. Thanks to everybody who's listening right now, and we appreciate it. And have a good one.
Yeah, Chase, stay safe, people, and man, stay indoors if you can. Stay healthy. We don't know what's going on out there right now.
All right. Well, thanks, man.